Hi, I'm Lisa Schaefer, and I'm going to do a lap booking workshop with some of my friends from our homeschool group here in Kansas. And I'm going to start with a list of things that you are going to want to have on hand, okay? There are some things that you probably already have, and I'm going to encourage you to have those. You're going to want to have a really good pair of scissors, and I'm not talking about the little tiny cheapy kind that the kids use to make sure they don't cut themselves. That's not going to work for you. You're going to want to make sure you have a good pair of scissors. These are mine. I don't believe they're Fiskars, but that is one that I recommend. These are Scotch. Also, you're going to want to make sure that you have something that's sticky. Glue stick is always a good choice because it's not too messy. And remember, my hope is that your kids own these, not just you. You know what, guys? You're going to want to spread out. I'm thinking two of you at least need to go over there to that table and give yourselves more room. I just happened to think about that. You're all at one table. Spread out a little bit so you got room to cut and move and stack. Okay, so those are a couple. So for sure you want good scissors, and for sure you want something that's good and sticky. Dinah always recommends in her book, and by the way, all this information is in Dinah Zykes' big book of books, and I highly recommend that you get it. But one of the things that she says back, you have to remember the book was written quite some time ago. We didn't have tape runners. This is a tape runner with little double sticky things like you use when you do photograph scrapbooking. Okay, this is super for what we're going to do tonight. But when she wrote this book, she just recommended mixed glue and water with a Q-tip sometimes, so you wouldn't have so much glue to use, or just use a very tiny bit, little dot here and there in the corners, and that's also really good, and very conservatively. So you want to have something that's good and sticky. Tape runners are great. They're a little pricier, but they're non-acidic and they're not as messy as glue. But for your kids, glue stick is fine. And remember this, what we're going to do is put our mini books together. So for example, this is a mini book. Okay. This is a vocabulary book right here. It's a mini book, all right? This will get taped down into a larger project if you're doing unit studies or if you do notebooking and you want to do this, incorporate this into your notebooking. So you won't have an entire project of lots of things that are sticky. You'll stick them in one at a time as you do them and keep some time and space between each project, and that way you don't have a whole big thing full of lots of sticky gluey things. You won't have that. So don't worry about that, okay? This was when we did the bee tree, which is a 5-in-a-row unit. We loved it. This is all the places that we've been at the time. So anyway, so you want to have some kind of glue or something that's good and sticky. Scrap paper. I have a crate in my house in 2 different rooms. You probably saw it in my office if you came to my house last week. I keep something like this, and I just throw my scrap stuff in it, my scrap paper in it. And if it's stuff that I don't know that I'm going to have specifically to use for a specific project, then I'm probably tossing it in here so it's accessible to the kids when they're young. But don't put it all out. For example, if you buy supplies like, 8.5, like I've got this 8.5 by 11 paper in here that we're going to use tonight, and we're using cardstock, not construction paper, and not regular paper. You want to use something sturdy. Use regular paper for writing projects and then paste them into your mini books. Do not use regular paper for your mini books because they need to be a little more durable than that. And one of the reasons is when I started doing this, I wanted my kids to look back at these projects, and my son is 21 years old and he will still pull these out at my house and go back over things that he learned when he was 7, 8, 9 years old. I love that. I love that. Isn't that sweet? It's 21. Don't lie, you do. If you're watching, you do. He does that with scrapbooks too. But anyway, I'm going to get all choked up. So anyway, so use cardstock, not paper. But paper's good to have around because you want your children to have something to cut and paste and draw and color and manipulate. That's the whole point of this. When I say mini books, I mean manipulation of their education. They're going to manipulate this information and use it. But when you buy paper, when you buy supplies, don't, put it out sparingly. Otherwise they'll use all of it all at once, and just restock as needed. Okay. And that's, I think that's fine. You know, do that within limits. Don't you think? That's okay. Okay. Rulers, hole punchers, the different shapes that you can get a hold of. Ziploc bags are good because you'll have then a place to store a project while it's being worked on. You can put them inside a 2-gallon Ziploc bag and zip them. Dinah recommends in the book that you use things like those silver rings. They have a hinge on one side and they kind of hook on the other. I don't know that that's necessary. I mean, I got one of these from Office Supply. Actually, I got it at a yard sale, most likely. Got it at a yard sale, and I slide the projects in something like this. But you can use a crate or a shoebox, or, you know, I have the kids doing 5 in a row with me right now, and they're bringing little containers with lids on them just to keep their stuff in. You can do that too if it's a project that you're working on. So, stamps, buttons, stamp pads, stickers, any of the things that we would, I mean, a lot of us have done scrapbooking already, so any of the things that you think you would use when you're doing a scrapbook, you want to have something similar available for your kids when they're building their projects. So those are the kinds of things that I would keep on hand. I highly recommend those stackable drawers that you can get from discount stores. There are some discount stores I don't shop at, and they'll remain nameless. But I would try to locate something that allows you to keep your supplies stored in some sort of orderly fashion, and train your children how to put those things back. Because part of the fun of the project is also the cleanup. I mean, they need to be responsible for that. Okay, she didn't say that, I did. So, spray adhesive is good, but only adults need to use it. Don't let little kids use spray adhesive because, you know, it's an inhalant for one, and not a good inhalant. But I've had really good luck with just little dots of glue, you know, and set it aside and let it dry for a day and it's fine. So, okay, so there's kind of a list of things that you need. Staples, I don't like to use staplers. Have them on hand because little kids like to use staples and put things together. But one of the first things I showed our kids in our 5 in a row co-op was how to build a book without staples, glue, tape, and I like it that way. So if they don't have to build the book with staples or some sort of mechanical device, I think it's good for them because then they don't have to wait for mom to get the stapler down. You know, they can build their own book. Okay. So that's kind of a list of supplies. Yarn is good. Old magazines is good. Remember I told you I get old textbooks that are outdated at yard sales or whatever. I cut those pictures out. I tear up textbooks. It's true. It's okay. You're still using it for educational purposes. But you're manipulating it so it works for you and for your kids. So I have bought old workbooks that somebody sold in their yard sale. Half of them were filled out. I didn't use that part. I used the pictures. Okay. All right. So there's a list of supplies. We'll go on to the next thing.